I hope that you enjoy our videos, and please press like. It'll help us a lot. If you want a copy of my book, The Speculator's Mosaic, just check below, or it can also be bought on Amazon. When I was in Sacramento with the State Personnel Board, and I was already investing poorly, but having the gambling instinct. Another thing that I was doing even then was I was interested in reading, so I'd go into bookstores. And one day I walked into a bookstore and I saw a different copy of this, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator by Edwin Lefevre. And I took it out and read about 2 pages, and I said, whoa! So I bought that book and I read it from cover to cover. I still, to this day, if people ask me, well, I'm kind of interested in the stock market, what would you recommend I read? And I always say the #1 book to read is Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. And the reason is that it was really kind of a fictional history of a real-life speculator named Jesse Livermore. What was so great about this book is that it would place the reader about, in effect, Jesse Livermore at age 14 or 15, who's starting to speculate. Just like always, you get into a situation where sometimes stocks go up, sometimes they go down, so on and so forth. And each time you get one of those situations, you have an emotional reaction. Emotions are very important. And more than any other book, you get the sense by reading Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, what is it like to actually speculate in terms of the emotional impact. Several great stories, and one of them is about, I think his name was Turkey. He was an older guy who was in the office where the protagonist was working, and somebody came over to him and gave him a tip on a stock, and he said, I gave you this tip, right, Mr. Jones, Turkey? He said, oh yes, I appreciate it. Yes, you told me about it at $20 a share, and now it's 30. The other person said, well, I've just received information that I think means that you should sell your stock, and you may well have a chance to buy it back at a lower price. And he said, oh no, said Turkey, oh no, I couldn't do that. And the guy was kind of paused, and he said, well, why not? He said, well, I appreciate your telling me about it. You know, I'm very happy that I bought the stock, and I'm happy to hold it, but my experience tells me I don't want to sell it. And the person who was talking to him kind of laughed to a couple of friends. He doesn't really know what he's talking about, or so on and so forth. And what Turkey says is, nope, it's a bull market. And what I've learned is that when you're in a bull market, you don't know how long keep going, but you hang on to it. He got very emotional about it. This is why I can't sell. So part of the reason that I learned that lesson from this book is because of the emotion involved in what the guy was talking about. It happens to be a very good lesson. So, for example, if I'm speculating and I think the market is bullish, even so, I will say there's a certain amount I'm willing to lose, and then I'm going to give up. And so very often I will put in what's called a stop order. Let's say the stock, I bought it at 20, it goes to 30, and I want to hold on to some of that. There might be 28 or 27, where I might be apt to say, if it gets down to that price, I want out. There's no other book that puts you in the cockpit, so to speak, of speculation as well as Reminiscences of a Stock Operator.